Hello everybody, my name is Michael and I am the one half of the Decompressed Productions. The other half, my buddy Fino, is busy today editing a different video, so I'm gonna be your host. So the first video today was actually recorded by an accident, and that's when we were doing the interview with Jasper, and we were done. We forgot that we had one of the backup cameras on the side still running, and Woody was talking about the popular TV show called Rescue 911. That show actually featured him, and he was sharing the memory how it was actually made, and I think it's a funny story, so have fun.
An obviously young California girl who introduced herself as Sky Dent. Okay, California name. And she says, yeah, well, we subscribe to clipping services and we got your story and we'd like to do it if you'd be willing to cooperate. And I said, yeah, I'll be glad to do it. We'd like to shoot it for you. She went, oh God. I could hear here's another grandpa with got a camera for Christmas, So anyway, I hooked up Wes as the underwater photographer.
Very nice.
And so we got, and I cast all the parts.
Wow. On YouTube?
Yeah, the Rescue 911. Well, that was a big show.
Yeah.
At the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they ended up making a 20-minute segment out of it. They had never even thought about making a 20-minute segment, but we gave them so much good shit, they couldn't figure out how to knock it down to a regular 10-minute piece. And that was their opening show for the opening segment for the opening show for their second season.
That's cool.
So the Rush Week opener.
That's a big deal.
That's how much they liked it.
That's awesome.
The second video was recorded in December 2023, and that's when we were down in Lake City recording Lamar Hires. Before the interview, Lamar was really nice and he showed us the Dive Rite facility, and I would like to share that with you as well. So here it is.
Yeah, we moved into this building, I think it was in 1992. Okay. We moved out of our little place over on King Road where Mark and I started at.
Okay, so which way are we going?
All right, well, I'll just give you a quick overview here. So we moved in here in 92, moving out of a small place that was, I think, 30 by 80 foot. Okay, not even as big as our front area right now. That's where we started in 84. And then in 92, we were able to lease this building. And then in 97, Leanne and I bought the place. We bought Mark out. We took over everything completely. And then a few years ago, we bought this place outright. So we own the whole city block.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
And we use it all. But this is our sales area. And we've got a lot of friends. Like that is Michelangelo, the cave diver.
Okay.
Who did that and gave it to us. Kind of a thing there with Michelangelo, and he's also a cave diver. He's also the guy who repaired the damage in Cal Springs when somebody had put their handprints on one of the clay banks. He went in and cleaned it all out and smoothed it out to get rid of the
Yeah, I remember
what
that.
had been done. That was Mike. So anyway, we do all of our sales in here in the conference room, and that was one of Wes's. That was one of the prints from National Geographic.
Well, yeah, I still have a copy of that. It's a Dipolder 2?
Yeah, that's Dipolder. Yeah,
Dipolder, okay.
yeah.
I remember that.
That's one of the custom ones he did.
Very cool.
Yeah, because we sponsored that. So anyway, we come through here, and then now we start the offices with Leanne, mine. This in here is just kind of a little bit of a history thing. Old maps of caves. Some of them aren't published. Some of them are just a tick mark somewhere on a map from what we do and everything. And just a lot of work goes on, planning and things like that. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, a few things of my past. My wife, man. This is our next generation light, but because of our 3D printers, we have like 7 of them here. We print, to make sure ergonomics, everything, fittings for all the electronics, that we haven't missed anything in terms of dimensions. So we do all that in here. Back here is where this is our sewing area, and where we actually do assembly on transpacks and harness order because of all the size variations we have. And then we also do prototyping here. We outsource a lot of the primary stuff to, we have some partner partner vendors here in the States who are also divers. To me, that's one of the biggest things that's worked for us, is we partner with guys who are divers. So company up in New York, Saratoga, Mike's an active wreck diver and rebreather diver. So his input on design and functionality for production was just priceless for making these projects move forward. And his equipment and everything up there. So it makes it easy when you're talking to another diver about what you're thinking about. Rather than having to draw it from scratch because he doesn't know what you're thinking about. So we work with companies like that. Our bands, bolts, back plates, all the original ones were from a machine shop in Athens, Georgia, who came down for cave training, and we hooked up, and he became one of our vendors for quite a while. So a lot of it have been relationships like that. Cave divers coming down for people coming down for training, and then they have some type of engineering background, and then we work together.
Yeah, Alex, a lot of us.
Yeah, Alex out of Virginia was like that. We designed a lot of equipment with him, and he was one of our primary vendors until he retired. Yeah, so that, and then over here is where we BCs, all of our BCs, air cells, are assembled in this room, tested, QC'd on a timer for holding air before anything ships and such. But here again, fast production, we can turn out 50 to 100 BCs a day.
Oh, wow.
And that's one person. She's really good. But everything is set up here so we can do sizing and such.
That's where my BCs came from then.
Yeah, yep.
Oh,
So
this
we can
one's
do
fine.
everything from sizing to, what length hose and all that. So we build the order like that on a daily basis as the orders come in.
All right.
And we also do a lot of military subcontracting. Yeah, everything from non-magnetic to combat units. So shipping, have a little machine shop area over there, hidden behind storage. All these huge boxes, we get containers of fins in, and so they get stored in here in sizing. And over here is another little production room. We're doing all the reels, the new azimuth and new slide lock series that came out. They're all put together and lined in here. And then we use this for an overflow table for production in QC when we get big shipments in. And we do all that in this room here. And this is where we do all of our shipping. So everything flows through here, out through this way for shipping. And we ship, UPS, we're one of UPS's largest shippers in Lake City. They dedicate whole trucks to us sometimes. And the regular driver, when he knows we've got big shipments coming in or out, he'll take the day off. So let's open up. So this is where we do all the regulator QC and service in here. The air is piped in to this workstation, and then over here to this workstation over here, where we do assemblies on all of our packages, because we do a lot of pre-assembled packages for side mount doubles and such. So All that is assembled over here before it goes over to shipping. Everything is serialized, barcoded, and tracked. So I can tell you when a regulator came in, when it was put into a package, and then who we sold it to. Even down to the hoses are serialized by batch. So this little room here is our playroom. This is where we keep our rebreathers, and all of us dive out of this room, put our stuff together in here. So when we're playing around with new products and such, this is where it'll wind up as we test it and play with it and get all the feedback from everybody that dives here. Because everybody dives. So from there, over here is where we do our rebreather assembly and service. So we'll put units together here. We ship on average 5 Choptimas a week. That's what our sales are.
Wow.
Yeah, sometimes 10, but average is 5. I say usually minimum's 5. We get sometimes as much as 10.
I was one of those at some point.
Huh?
So I was one of those at some point.
Yeah. So all that comes out of this room, and it's a constant evolution. We're constantly trying to improve. We don't settle. You know, we look at things. We've got a few new products coming out for 2024 that are going to make people, you know, look at things and go, "What?"
With the extreme success of the Choptima, do you roughly know the numbers? How many sold in total?
Yeah. I know the exact number.
You know the exact number.
Like I said, do the math. I said 5 a week. That gives you a good guess.
It's 52 weeks in a year.
And
and
it's
you've
been
been
out for
3 years?
2.5 years.
2.5? Wow.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Okay, and then here's where we do all of our electronics work, where we do the soldering and everything to put everything together in the heads in this room and here.
All right.
Behind his all that stuff.
All right, then in here, this is where we have the rest of our 3D printers, 2 laser engraver cutters, you know, to keep up with production needs. Because some of it, 3D printed parts would be things like the fixtures to hold the boards in place and the pods, electronic circuits in place to be able to put them into a housing.
Mm-hmm.
So we print a lot of parts like that for putting all the electronics together. Shearwater was here one time, and I remember Bruce calling me and, "Lamar, show my boys all those toys." We had more laser engravers than they did. So anyway, we do all that here, and then we do a lot of our own engraving. Like here are the frames for the azimuth reel, and we do all the engraving here on those printer, on those engravers right there.
Nice.
Then over here,
More over here, Michael.
over here we do lights. So this is where we build lights and get those ready to go out. Everyone goes to 200 feet in the test tank. Every light that we send out gets tested. We have our own welding machines, so we weld our own battery packs, all UN tested and approved. That's just this week's. So that's what we do in here. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 people working in this building. 1 rebreather tech, 1 rec tech, 1 light tech, and then the manager who floats between both buildings. And they're all cross-trained, so it makes it nice when people are out, they can help each other. Let me close this down.
It's bigger than I thought it is.
So, when I said we have the whole block, the whole city block here, and this is our main production building over here. This is our air station here. We have a K-15, nitrox, trimix, oxygen. Probably equivalent to most dive shops. This is just for us to play, test, and just take care of our employees that actually dive. So O2 on tap with an electric O2 booster, a gas booster, trimix banked, nitrox banked, air banked, all hyper pure because the air gets piped in for testing on the 2 benches.
The third and the final video today was actually part of the original interview with Edd Sorenson. We decided to cut it out because it was actually describing pretty graphically how Edd was recovering deceased divers from the cave. So this is your warning. If you don't want to listen about the techniques and protocols and the extra stuff that it's pretty graphic, now it's the time to stop watching because, like I said, it's pretty graphic and this is your warning.
I had a talk after the Dominican body recovery where the 2 guys went in. Long story short on that, 18 different experts tried to get those bodies out and they couldn't. They only found one of them and they couldn't get him out. He was stuck. And the last expert was Patrick Woodman, great cave diver, a good friend of mine. But he couldn't get it done and he was calling Lamar and asking him for help. But Lamar said, you know, I'm not there. But anyway, it got back to him. When it's impossible, call Edd. So he called me. I went over there and I got them out. It was brutal. We're not going to go on into the whole story, but it was probably the toughest recovery I've ever done. Then I had to go back in the next day and find the second guy. Now, nobody even had seen him. They assumed he was further in, but they couldn't get around the body. So now I have to go back into this little teeny scrunchy tunnel that is so small and it's complete zero visibility. And now I'm exploring a cave with a reel in one hand and I'm exploring a cave and looking for a dead body all with one hand. But I got him out. When I got there, and I'm taking Mike on this body recovery. Mike and I had never done a body recovery together. So I'm telling him, okay, in this pocket, I have this harness that goes around from the neck, around this armpit, back to the neck, around this armpit, and then we do this. Where the hell did you buy that? I go, I made it. But sometimes we have to take them out backwards. So I have this harness in this pocket. And it goes around here, and it comes down, and it goes through the loop here, and it ties, and it keeps the legs together, and we can pull them out backwards. And he's like, where'd you get that one? I said, I made it. How do you come up with this stuff? Necessity. I go in, I see what I see, and I improvise, adapt, overcome. And then I said, in this pocket over here, I also have the bag. What's the bag for? I said, we put the bag over their head, and then we pull the drawstring tight, because when they've been in the water this long, sometimes they start to come apart. And I remember Henry Nicholson talking about a head that came off on the recovery, and then they had to go back in and get the head, and they're picking up this slimy head, and then the jaw falls off, and then they had to go back in and get the jaw. And I said, it's easier just to put them in a bag. That way, if it comes off, you just pick up the bag. And I said, plus, if anything comes out, it's in the bag. And I said, plus, my goal for every recovery I've done, I remember the 2000 recovery of the 2 guys that Bill got sent out to do a rescue, and it turned into a recovery. When he got the bodies out, it was so small and nasty that the faces and hands were all torn up because they were rigor mortis and they ground away on the rocks. And the family sees their loved ones like this and they think they were murdered. So I always took extra care of every person I brought out of there to make sure that they were as intact as I found them. And I said, this bag protects them, and if something comes off, we have it. And he's like, how do you come up with this sick, demented crap? But it was all out of necessity. Anyway, the guy in the Wasissa, it came down to they were trying to decide whether they blow the cave entrance, dynamite it shut, and that be his tomb. Or do we go in with a saw and cut him up and bring him out in pieces? And I said, these families need closure, and you cannot, you bring that guy out in pieces, and that family will be in Shrinkville with a therapist for the rest of their lives. I said, we need to give them closure. This can be done.
And that's it. Thanks for watching. If you had a good time, please give us a like, consider to subscribe, and stay tuned